Hello and welcome to Rise and Unwind. My name is Dan. You know, each and every week I try to talk to people from across the country about things you can do right here in your neighborhood. And on this week's show, we got this.
As we were getting ready to film the show and as we were filming the show, a lot of people would say like, oh, does it feel like a lot of pressure? Do you feel a lot of pressure doing this and telling this story?
Yeah, let's just take leukemia, for example. It used to be frankly, a death sentence for kids, and now it is a highly, highly curable cancer.
So you're saying it's not a good idea to throw a little pizza party for everyone just to make them feel better?
If we're saying it may not be enough.
What's the going rate for a tooth fairy visit, and can adults get in on this?
I don't think adults can easily get in on this.
All of that and more right here on Rise and Unwind. Imagine living with a condition where your immune system is missing the very tools it needs to fight off infections. That is the reality for people living with primary immunodeficiency, or PI. With World Primary Immunodeficiency Week coming up, we're joined by Laurel Cherwin, a senior immunology clinical nurse educator with Octapharma, and Susan Scarbro, a patient living with PI who receives life-saving plasma treatments. They're here to share how one simple act, donating plasma, can make all the difference. Welcome to the show, you two. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Susan, I want to start with you. Can you share what life is like living with PI, especially when your body feels like it's always under attack?
It is not fun. I will tell you that. You feel like a roller coaster. And I think it's been that way even before I found out I had PI, because I knew I was sick. My doctors knew I was sick. They couldn't figure out what was wrong. So there was a lot of misdiagnosis. There was a lot of medicines that I didn't need. Sometimes I was dismissed. So there's a roller coaster of frustration and emotion. But once I was finally diagnosed with PI, which it took about 25 years from the beginning of when I was sick to when I was diagnosed, I started getting immunoglobulin infusions, which are IVIG. And immunoglobulin actually has the antibodies that my body does not make. That's what PI is. We don't make our own antibodies. So we get sick a lot because we don't have the antibodies to be able to fight the viruses or the bacterial problems or fungal or whatever. And we get sick, and we not only get sick, but we stay sick. And unfortunately, a lot of medications like antibiotics just don't work. You have to go several rounds. So now that I found out that I had PI, I now have this amazing gift in immunoglobulin, and it's derived from human plasma. It cannot be man-made. It has to be donated. It has to be from a human. And I get that every other week. And I'm kind of like a car. I gas up, and then I run out, and I gas up again. But while I'm gassed up, I'm able to live my life like a normal person and like I used to live before. So I can really contribute to my society, my community, and to everybody that I love. So it has made a life-changing difference for me.
And Laurel, you've helped so many patients, but you've also had your own health journey. How did that experience shift the way that you work in this field?
Yeah, so my story was pretty similar to Susan's. I had a very long period, I would say 10 years or so, of just really complex infections and unchecked inflammation. I felt like I was circling the drain, and I was working in director of operations for sending nurses into homes that provided the infusions, the IVIG infusions for the patients. And in the clinical review of their records, I looked at some of the symptom presentation, and I thought, wow, this kind of sounds like me. So I was able to seek out an immunologist in town, and he went through the very complex diagnostic process. Did indeed get a diagnosis of primary immune deficiency. And then finally, after a total of like 13 years, I was able to get on immunoglobulin therapy myself. And I will say that the IVIG completely changed my life and allowed me to move forward in a healthy, productive way.
And for people that are unfamiliar with it, what does plasma donation process actually involve? Is it quick? Is it painful? What should people expect? And how can we help?
Yeah, so I think the process is fairly simple. You have to bring a couple of pieces of information, your photo ID, a social security card, a known address, etc. The first appointment is about 2 hours, and it gives a pretty detailed health questionnaire and as well as a physical exam to identify if indeed you yourself are healthy enough to donate the plasma. So then moving forward, Each visit would be approximately an hour, I would say. And it's very similar. It involves a venipuncture, very similar to donating blood. However, the difference is that they extract the plasma that contains the antibodies, and then the regular blood cells are returned to you. You can donate twice a week, and as long as there's a 48-hour window between the two, because that is the time that requires the body to kind of reestablish.
And what would you say to someone out there who's never donated plasma, why they should actually consider it?
I would say that I think in today's very negative world, if you want to spread some positivity, donate plasma. Because like I said, again, we can't make it. It's only God-born in our bodies. And so we have to, we meaning the people who have primary immune deficiency, but there are so many other diseases and illnesses that depend on immunoglobulin to treat it. This is something that we're going to have forever. So if there's no plasma, there's no us, literally.
Yeah.
And it is a life-changing thing. It makes a difference. And it not only makes a difference in our lives and the patient's lives, but every life that we touch. So there are positive ripples that just go well beyond the scope, probably what a donor could ever even think.
And each treatment takes thousands of donors, their plasma, their antibodies in the formulation of one of our treatments.
Yes.
Where can we go for more information, either get involved or understanding more about donation or even understanding PI better?
Yeah, so if you're interested in more information regarding the plasma donation process, go to octapharmaplasma.com. It'll go through the whole process there, as well as allow you to look up a location that would be near to you. So be a plasma hero.
And
then
then
there's
also,
IDF.
yes, for IDF, which is Immune Deficiency Foundation. It's a nonprofit organization that I volunteer for because they totally made my life completely different, because this is very much a rare disease. And to be able to find people that just get it is huge. They also have a ton of education where you understand your specific, there's 550 different types of PIs, and they help you because knowledge is power. It gives us voice. And it also, if our story sounds familiar, and if you're thinking, I've been sick a long time and we have not been able to get to the bottom of that, well, you can go on to primary.immune.org. That is the IVF's website. And you can take an online assessment tool that you can take to your doctors, which really can open the doors. I know we wish that we had that 25 and 15 years ago. Would have made such a huge difference.
Laurel, Susan, you two are plasma heroes. Thanks for joining us this morning. Do you ever wonder how far we've come in the fight against childhood cancer? Today, nearly 85% of kids diagnosed with cancer are surviving at least 5 years, thanks in large part to decades of research and organizations pushing for more funding and awareness. One of those groups is Hyundai Hope on Wheels, a nonprofit that's donated over $227 million to pediatric cancer research. So joining us today is John Guastaferro, Executive Director of Hyundai Hope on Wheels, along with 10-year-old cancer survivor and youth ambassador Jackson Trinh. Welcome to the show, John and Jackson, you two. How are you?
We're doing well. Thanks for having us.
All right, let's start with some perspective. How common is pediatric cancer, and why is continued research such a big deal in the fight against it?
Yeah, pediatric cancer is it's very common. It's every 36 minutes a child is diagnosed with cancer. It is the leading cause of death by disease among kids. Now, with that, I also want to say the progress is being made. You mentioned that 85% of kids are surviving cancer. That's a high number, and it's growing every year thanks to investing in research and treatment and everything in between. Everybody at Hyundai Hope on Wheels, as a nonprofit charity, is committed to investing in research till one day we can celebrate that we've found a cure for all types of childhood cancer.
What has been some of the biggest changes that you've actually seen over the years?
Yeah, let's just take leukemia, for example. It used to be frankly, a death sentence for kids, and now it is a highly, highly curable cancer. We ask our researchers, what is the progress you're making? And there's new insights to cancer biology, new treatments and therapies, new clinical trials, and there's so much more. And we're so thankful that these researchers have dedicated their lives to finding a cure. And we know when we put grants in their hands that they're going to make innovative advances in cancer.
And Hyundai Hope on Wheels has made such an impact. Can you tell us what you guys are doing this year, especially with plans to try to expand outside the United States?
Yeah, for sure. Everyone at Hyundai is so committed to this cause. Thinking back to 1998, when two Hyundai dealers got together to donate to Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, and now all over 850 dealers are involved by donating to our foundation. Hyundai Motor America also gives, and so we're all in this, from our board of directors to our team across the nation. And this year, our largest donation in our history, $27 million, which brings the lifetime total to $277 million. And with that, we've established a model here that we've been doing for over a quarter of a century, and we're proud that this model is going to be replicated in other countries as well. So we've launched Hyundai Hobo Wheels in Canada, Mexico to follow, and other countries after that.
And Jackson, your story, it's incredible. What helped you get through it, and what does it mean for you to now be a youth ambassador?
Yeah, so what got me through most of it was probably the support I got along the way. My parents, the nurses and doctors, they all helped me get through it. And to be a Hyundai Hope on Wheels ambassador, well, it means I get to tell my story and spread hope around the world. I get to be other kids' voices, and I get to help them by raising money.
And for people at home that are watching and want to support the cause, where can they go for more information and maybe get more involved?
Well, for more information, you can go to HyundaiHopeOnWheels.org.
Jackson, I want to thank you for being here today, telling us your story. John, do everything that you can. You're doing a great job. Thanks for helping all these kids out and everybody out. So keep up the great work, both of you guys, all right?
Hey, Dan, thank you for helping us spread the word as well.
Okay. Is there anything else that we're missing? Is there anything else you want to tell the audience?
No, I was going to say, HyundaiHopeOnWheels.org, like Jackson mentioned, you get to read his story. Our other ambassador, Emmy Cole, and write a message on our Hope Wall and make a donation if you're so moved.
John and Jackson, thanks for joining me this morning.
Hey, thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Do you ever find yourself trying to plan for your child's future and pay for their next lost tooth at the same time? A new study from Ameriprise Financial takes a look at the real money pressures that comes up with raising kids. Everything from college costs to how much the tooth fairy is dropping these days. So she's here with the latest insights to help parents feel more confident about their finances. Vice President and Certified Financial Planner at Ameriprise, Deana Healy. Welcome to the show, Deana. How are you?
Thank you so much, Dan, for having me today.
All right, so let's start off with this new parents and finances study. What stood out most for you?
I love this study so much. We really found that parents were facing competing priorities as they thought about their current and financial future. We talked to over 3,000 American parents as they thought about their finances for their children from the age of newborn to age 30. And the number one concern that they identified was being concerned about the trade-offs they're making today and how they might impact their financial future. Now, the good news is that nearly all parents said that they reported a sense of purpose and joy in having kids and building a family, but they said it was harder than they expected, either emotionally or financially. And some of that, they said, came from a sense of needing to feel like the perfect parent. Just over a third of parents reported feeling that way.
All right, let's settle this for once and for all. What's the going rate for a tooth fairy visit, and can adults get in on this?
I don't think adults can easily get in on this, but nearly all parents identified that they were enlisting the support of the tooth fairy for helping their kids build their piggy banks. And on average, the tooth fairy is bringing $5 a tooth today. Now, while that seems like a fun little anecdote, and it is, we know that it's a great opportunity for parents to start to teach lessons to kids about money, even at an early age, because when a child has $5, it's their own. They can say, well, do I want to spend that today on a treat, like maybe a candy bar or a Pokemon card? Or do they want to save that up along with their allowance for something else in the future? Right there, they're learning how to balance a current desire with a delayed gratification, something in the future. And that's just a great lesson to learn so early.
So how early should parents start talking to the kids about money, and what are some of the simple ways to raise those financially smart kids?
Yeah, I think as early as kids start to hear about money and think about money very early. So that first opportunity when a child is getting an allowance or getting money from the tooth fairy is a great time to start to have age appropriate but open and honest conversations about money. It helps children know that it's okay to talk about money, that it's okay to think about trade-offs and how they think about their money, both currently and in the future. And so it's, to me, it's never too early. Now you have age appropriate conversations so that when your children are, say, in high school, that's a great time to start to talk about, say, what a college expense will look like. What are all the expenses that go into it, whether that's tuition or books or room and board? And then what are the resources they can bring to bear? Scholarships, loans, money that parents have set aside for college. We know from this study that nearly half of parents start setting aside money for a college education fund before their children turn 5. And in fact, 1 in 10 actually start saving for college education before their children are even born. So all of those things are ways that parents can start to help to raise financially savvy children by having those open, honest conversations.
So for parents that are like feeling that financial pressure, what are some steps that they could take right now to feel at least a little more control?
That's a great question. Thank you, Dan. What I would say is having conversations amongst themselves, starting to understand what is important about their money, what do they want to see happen for their future, and enlisting the support of a financial professional like an advisor who can help them articulate what their goals are, what does retirement look like for them, what kind of college do they want to set aside money for their kids for, and putting a plan in place that will allow them to take the steps today to meet their longer term financial goals. Having that plan will give them a sense of confidence and feeling of in control. As a certified financial planner myself, that is the number one thing that I would help parents think about their current financial situation.
And if families want to learn more or get help building a plan, where's the best place for them to go?
I'd like to make sure people take a look at ameriprise.com/parents. They can find information about how to find an advisor, as well as tips to raise financially savvy children.
Deana Healy, thanks for joining me this morning.
Thank you so much, Dan. Have a great day.
Feeling more burnt out than usual? You're not alone. A new survey says nearly 1 in 4 Americans feel like their career future is out of their hands. The 2025 Calendar Optimism Index from the University of Phoenix dives into pressures workers are facing right now and what employers can do about it. So joining us is Dr. John Woods, Chief Academic Officer at Provost for University of Phoenix and Founding Director of their Career Institute. Welcome to the show, Dr. Woods. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me on today to talk about the index.
All right, for folks who haven't heard of it, what is the Career Optimism Index and what stood out the most in this year's results?
Yeah, the Career Optimism Index is an annual study that we field each year, looking at worker and employer sentiment with respect to career prospects. In this case, we're looking to identify different workforce trends and differences in sentiment between those two groups. And the number one thing we spotted in the results this year is, as you said, workers feeling a loss of career control. And that's contributing to a significant sense of burnout. In fact, 51% of workers are reporting feeling burnt out right now, which is a record high for us in the last 5 years that we've been conducting this survey.
So what are some practical ways employers could help turn around that burnout?
Yeah, we think the burnout is associated with a lack of career control. And the lack of career control is associated with workers feeling like they need to learn new things. They need upskilling, they need reskilling. They're ready, willing, and able to engage in different training opportunities. 71% say they know they will need to upgrade their skills. The lack of control comes from feeling like that training and development may not always be offered as much as it needs to be. So one key thing that employers can do is make sure that they're providing lots of different reskilling and upskilling opportunities to the workers. When that happens, workers feel more engaged, more positive overall, more productive, less burnt out, and importantly, less likely to leave their employer.
So you're saying it's not a good idea to throw a little pizza party for everyone just to make them feel better.
We're saying it may not be enough. Interestingly, 60% of employers are saying they'd rather hire new people who have the skills they have as opposed to investing in their current workers. That could be problematic because it takes time, money, and effort to find, hire, and onboard new people. Studies show this actually costs more than training the people you already have.
So how can companies rebuild that sense of control for their employees?
Again, it's real proactive conversations about career paths, career journeys. It's making upskilling and reskilling opportunities available. It's making sure workers understand how to engage in those training activities, where they can be found. In fact, one of the things we're seeing in the most recent results is that artificial intelligence is on the minds of both employers and workers. In this case, AI can really effectively be used to develop training materials that address some of the skills gaps that employers have. AI can be used in really effective ways to train people really affordably. As well, AI can be put directly in the hands of workers to help them perhaps establish a better work-life balance because they feel more productive on the job, where AI can do a lot of the things that can help them do their jobs better.
So where can people go to dig in some of the full results and maybe even learn more?
Yeah, full results are on our website at phoenix.edu/career-institute. The results have been distilled by us with a lot of insights that both workers and employers can find there.
John Woods, thanks for joining me this morning.
Yeah, enjoyed chatting with you. Thanks for having me.
Do you ever feel like everyone in your town knows everything about your life? Now imagine that. But, in the Arctic. North of North is Netflix's latest Canadian original comedy, and it follows Siaja, a young Inuk woman navigating small-town gossip, single motherhood, and discovering herself in the snowy, tight-knit community. She's fierce, she's funny, and pretty much not afraid to fall on her face. And bringing her to life is the incredibly talented Anna Lambe, who's here with a fresh new series that's as heartfelt as it is hilarious. Welcome to the show, Anna. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so your character Siaja kind of like makes some of these big, bold moves right from the start of the series. What drew you to her story, and what parts of her journey felt especially personal for you to play?
I mean, from the moment that I read the audition sides, I was so deeply invested. I loved that she was well-intentioned, but so incredibly messy and complicated, and had all of these dynamics around her, a complicated relationship with her mother, an unsatisfying marriage, but a dream and an ambition that she wanted something else for herself. And to, tell this story, which is like a second coming of age, this young woman deciding that she wants a life that she wants to live. She wants, something that is different, and she wants to put herself first for the first time in her life, was so exciting. And the showrunners, Alethea Onukak-Burrell and Stacey Aucklook-McDonald, are, the producers of the first ever film that I did when I was 15 years old, called The Grizzlies. And it really was a full circle moment, coming back together and going from Grizzlies, which was this little indie film, to now North of North for Netflix. It was just, I, spent months auditioning for it and many days crying about it, hoping that it would work out. And it did. And I'm so incredibly proud of what we created.
And I'm glad it did. The show, it balances comedy with some real emotional depth. How did you find that balance as an actor, especially with some of Siaja's tougher moments?
Yeah, I think finding it as an actor might have been difficult if I wasn't from Iqaluit, if I wasn't Inuk, because that is so representative of how we do navigate hard times in our lives and how we deal with things. Inuit humor, it can be so dry, it can be so silly, but there's so much trauma that exists within our community. There's so much hardship that a sense of humor is how we get through it, and how we face the really difficult things. So doing that, and especially with Micah Harper, who plays Nevi, who's also from Eqadrit, being on the same level as someone and really understanding each other and each other's history and what you're bringing to a scene, and how you really kind of create that, I love you so much, but do you make me angry, was so, what we knew already. So it was, I think as an actor, a real privilege to be able to get to do that swing of emotion, the really silly, like high comedy, kind of clowny stuff, all the way to, the heartbreaking, kind of punches you in the stomach stuff.
And North of North, it's comedy, but it's also a huge moment for Inuit storytelling. What does it mean for you to be a part of a project led by Inuit creators, filmed in the Arctic, and starring an Indigenous cast? It's so exciting. As we were getting ready to film the show, and as we were filming the show, a lot of people would say, like, oh, does it feel like a lot of pressure? Do you feel a lot of pressure doing this and telling this story? And shockingly, no, because the showrunners are Inuit women from the North. Micah Harper is an Inuk woman from the North. Zorga Khaunak is an Inuk woman from the North. And so it was like the shared responsibility of representing the community in the best way possible. And we got so much love back from Eqadungmiut, from people from Eqaluit, and from the territory as a whole, from the designers that contributed work to our show, to, other filmmakers that wanted to support us, to the community just showing up and supporting us in whatever way that they could. So it always reframed things in the big picture of, we're not just creating a show, we're not just, doing these roles and doing this for our own careers. It's always about the community, it's always about the bigger picture, and it's always about, telling the story and what that could mean for people when they watch it. So it's just been a real privilege. It's been really exciting, and it's been a beautiful thing to share this with, people that just love this show and love the North. And now, an international audience gets to watch it, which is pretty cool and exciting. Anna Lambe, thanks for joining me this morning. Check out North of North. It's available now on Netflix. Thanks again.
Thank you so much.
And that's it for Rise and Unwind. I want to thank you for tuning in and checking out the show. If you actually want to be on the show, go to our website, riseunwindtv.com. Fill out the form, send us your info. Maybe we'll be talking on a future episode. Also, make sure you follow us, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's at Rise Unwind TV. And until next week, that was Rise and Unwind.